For some reason, it's not allowing people to. Maybe this is it. Excuse me. Okay, that's. That's fine. I'll just do this. No, I don't think I want to do that. This will work. Okay, that's what I was trying to do. So basically, the issue I'm having is I can't see the chat. I want to see the chat. What's more important, the chat or the video? I guess the video is more important, so I can see what I'm doing. The chat's probably not gonna do much anyway. Okay, let's get back to this.
We're going to take that, also going to replace this one as well. So let's first rebuild the solution, see if that gives us any issues. Sort it out. Let's try to run this. Now it's good. So it's going to say there's an issue because it says it's not found. It's actually fully loaded. What we're going to do is we're going to take that and move it up here. So now that we've done that, we should be able to rebuild to clear those problems. And now if we run it, there we go. We see our divider. I probably want to put a space before it as well. Pages 38. There you go. So since I want to change that, I have now the singular reference point up here. So we're going to say new line at the beginning and end. I can do that now because I have a singular reference point. I don't need to upgrade on both places where I had it, right? I can just do it in the one place where I actually have this method. Now my name is Doug. I still don't love that. 38. So we're going to remove one of those, which should give us balance on both sides. So that's good. I should also probably, instead of doing that, I should probably do headline here. It's probably at least some of what our problem is. So we'll run it another time in order to actually make sure. So you'll notice I run this stuff a lot because I'm constantly checking to make sure that the things that I've changed are working. Because you can sometimes get into a trap of not running your application coding for a very long time, and then you can have issues that you didn't know, and you don't know exactly where they are, and get backtracked. So there we go. That looks good. So, oops. I also obsessively save every time I know it's working. So in addition to that, we can also receive data, right, in a method. So up here, we're going to say, we're going to move our prompts here into an actual method. Now, since we are moving our prompts themselves actually give us some type of data. So we're going to need to set some type of return type, and we want to have them dynamic, right? Because both of these prompts are not the same. So we pretty much want a custom priming code and a custom code and custom priming message and a custom prompt here as well. So let's come up here and let's say string return type, because both of those things we're trying to get a string from, right? And we're going to say prompt user. Now, inside of my parentheses, I'm going to type in some parameter names. So these are data points that I can pass to my method. Now, we identified our two different parameters as being a string prime message as well as a string prompt text, right? So that's what I'm going to call them here. Now, inside of my body, I'm going to basically we can copy and paste this stuff up here. And we are going to start using those different variables, those parameters that we define. So instead of saying how old are you, we're going to say prime message. So whatever message we pass to this, and instead of saying age, what we're going to do, we're going to say our prompt text. Now we can reuse this for whatever we want, right? So we can basically replace both of these, but any other time we want to prompt somebody, we have a method that's built to do that, right? Very simple. The last thing we need to do is we need to capture that age and return it, right? So what I'm going to do, and typically what I'll do when I have a method that has some type of return type, is the first thing I'll do in my method is create a variable that is that particular return type, right? So in case I'm returning a string here, I'm going to define some type of string variable right off the bat because I know I'm going to need one. Then I'm going to go to the end of my method and I will do return age. So this means I will take that value and I will return that string value that's required now because I've defined it, right? So even if there's nothing else in my method, I'm going to be doing this at the top and this at the bottom right off the bat. That way I know that no matter what, since this method requires a string return type, I have already locked that down. I know I'm returning some type of string return. And then what I'm doing in here is just determining what the value of that variable will be, right? This will be a common pattern. You'll see this come up a lot in this course. I'll talk about it quite a few times. So now we're going to display our prompt. We're going to do cin. We're going to capture our age, and we're going to return the value stored in that age right off the bat. That way, I know that no matter what, since this method requires a string return type, I have already locked that down. I know I'm returning some type of string return. And what I'm doing in here is just determining what the value of that variable will be, right? This will be a common pattern. You'll see this come up a lot in this course, and I'll talk about it quite a few times. So now we're going to display our prompt. We're going to do cin. We're going to capture our age, and then we're going to return the value stored in that age typed variable. So now that I have this method with a string return type, anywhere where I was previously using a string variable, I can now just call this method because this method is, in essence, going to be a string in itself, or should return a string. So let's come in here and let's replace this chunk of code here with our new method. And actually, I'm not going to call it name or age because it's not technically an age; it's dynamic again. So we're just going to say results. We can say response too. Let's do response. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to right-click this and do rename. I'm going to rename result to response, and it'll actually rename it everywhere that I'm using it, so that's cool. So now we're going to take this chunk of code, which should represent that, and change this to that. So instead of doing all that, I'm going to call my prompt user method, prompt. So now with our new, I can now just call this method because this method is, in essence, going to be a string in itself, or should return a string. So let's come in here and let's replace this chunk of code here with our new method. And actually, I'm not going to call it name or age because it's not technically an age; it's dynamic again. So we're just going to say results. We can say response too. Let's do response. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to right-click this and do rename. I'm going to rename result to response, and it'll actually rename it everywhere that I'm using it, so that's cool. So
now, if you paid any attention, I'm supposed to be learning how to program, right? And he just did some shit that I don't understand because I don't know nothing about what's going on right now. And he just did some shit that I don't know. What is this thing that you just did? Is this important to the class? Is this relevant to what I need to do? The instructor just said, don't do anything that deviates from the lectures in the video. But what did he just do? He just did some advanced level shit in PG1 that I don't understand. I don't understand what that is that you just, I understand it now with a little bit of extra programming experience that I actually do have now. But when you're going from no experience to trying to understand something and you're watching an instructor do something, what was this thing that he just did? What was that thing that he just did? What is that? Is that important? Is that something I'm gonna have to do? Is that gonna be on the test? Do I need to write notes for that? What was that? And he did it off screen. He's never gonna respond. He's never gonna address it a second time or respond to it or say nothing. So what information is relevant to what I need to know and what information is not relevant? What is how do you, the My 2 Cent Life system, when you're trying to actualize what it is you're trying to do, is this information relevant? Do I need to know this information? Is this what I need to remember? Do I need to retain this stuff? What is it? Like, and it's a little thing and it's not a big deal, but you don't know if it's a big deal. You don't know what's going on. How would you know? What are you supposed to do? Like, how do you know? And one of the things that I know for a fact is that changing that breaks the whole fucking code. But he won't show that. He won't show that the whole code is broken now. He won't show that part.
Well, now we're going to take this chunk of code, which should represent that, and change this to that. So instead of doing all that, I'm going to call my prompt user method, prompt user, and it's going to require that I pass data in for those two parameters. So when I pass data into those two parameters, that's what we'll do.
For the record, that wasn't an error. That was just the video ending. Video just, hold on, let me see. I'm pretty sure that was the end of the actual video stream. What's this one?
Hey guys, in this video, we've used methods to help organize our code, keep it maintainable, reduce duplication, reduce our file size, and make it easier to debug as well. Because if there's an issue, encapsulate them into just
See where it was at.
do some legwork here. First of all, you can see I have a number of errors. We're going to address those, and then where are all my UI tools? All my UI tools are stored within. Once they're in that method, we are capturing the console input. Now I can eliminate all of those lines of code, right? Well, or I can just pass in a literal string. I'm going to do it as a literal string. So what's your name? And then this is my prompt. Now I already
should be where he changed it. No.
inside of my body, I'm going to basically we can copy and paste this stuff up. That we can also receive data, right, in a method. So up here, we're going to say, we're going to move our prompts here into an actual method. Now, since we are moving our prompts themselves actually give us some type of data. So we're going to need to set some type of return type, and we want to have them dynamic, right? Both of these prompts are not the same. So we pretty much want a custom priming code and a custom priming message and a custom prompt here as well. So let's come up here and let's say string return type, because both of those things we're trying to get a string from, right? And we're going to say prompt user. Now inside of my parentheses, I'm going to type in some parameter names. So these are data points that I can pass to my method. Now we identified our two different parameters as being a string prime message as well as a string prompt text, right? So that's what I'm going to call them here. Now, inside of my body, I'm going to basically we can copy and paste this stuff up here. And we are going to start using those different variables, those parameters that we define. So instead of saying how old are you, we're going to say prime message. So whatever message we pass to this, and instead of saying age, what we're going to do, we're going to say our prompt text. Now we can reuse this for whatever we want, right? So we can basically replace both of these, but any other time we want to prompt somebody, we have a method that's built to do that, right? Very simple. The last thing we need to do is we need to capture that age and return it, right? So what I'm going to do, and typically what I'll do when I have a method that has some type of first thing I'll do in my method is create a variable that is that particular return type, right? So in case I'm returning a string here, I'm going to define some type of string variable right off the bat because I know I'm going to need one. Then I'm going to go to the end of my method and I will do return age. So this means I will take that value and I will return that string value that's required now because I've defined it, right? So even if there's nothing else in my method, I'm going to be doing this at the top and this at the bottom right off the bat. That way I know that no matter what, since this method requires a string return type, I have already blocked that down. I know I'm returning some type of string return. And what I'm doing in here is just determining what the value of that variable will be, right? This will be a common pattern. You'll see this come up a lot in this course. I'll talk about it quite a few times. So now we're going to display our prompt. We're going to do cin. We're going to capture our age, and then we're going to return the value stored in that age typed variable. So now that I have this method with a string return type, anywhere where I was previously using a string variable, I can now just call this method because this method is in essence going to be a string in itself, or should return a string. So let's come in here and let's replace this chunk of code here with our new method. And actually, I'm not going to call it name or age because it's not technically an age; it's dynamic again. So we're just going to say response. We can say response too. Let's do response. I'm going to come up here. I'm going to right-click this and do rename. I'm going to rename result to response. And it'll actually rename it everywhere that I'm using it. So that's cool. So now we're going to take this chunk of code, which should represent that, and change this to that. So instead of doing all that, I'm going to call my prompt user method. Prompt user. And it's going to require that I pass data in for those two parameters. But when I pass data into those two parameters, that's what we know as arguments. Now, in particular, I have my prime text, my prime message, and my prompt text. And the order is going to matter here, right? So I have to type in whatever I want from it to be my prime message first, and then my prompt text. So my prime message is going to be this, and I can do this as a variable, or I can just pass in a literal string. I'm going to do it as a literal string. So what's your name? And then this is my prompt. Now I already know that I have this whole part already there, so I don't need to worry about that. So all I need to do is take that name, pass that in there, again, as a literal string. Do like that. Now I can eliminate all of those lines of code, right? And just have a descriptive method that says prompt user. Now this is going to return a string, so if I'm not grabbing it, that's my own thing here, right? So I do want to make sure that I am grabbing it. So I'm going to make a new string name variable, which is going to be equal to the results of my prompt user method. I'll do the same thing down here. Right? Do basically this again. Except instead of doing all of that, we're going to get rid of this. We're going to change that to age. And then going to delete that. How old are you? Question mark. And then we are going to take age. So there we go. We can eliminate that. And now we've kind of really truncated our method here, right? Or sorry, our application. So now we're displaying our header. We are saying, okay, we're going to prompt the user, what's your name? We're going to give them a name prompt. We're going to take that value stored in name. We're going to display a divider. We're going to prompt a user, how old are you? Give them an age, prompt them for their age, display another divider, and then we're going to give them some type of response. So again, I've done a lot of coding without testing stuff here. So let's actually test that out. So there we go. Doug, that's my divider. I'm going to say 38. So everything is working correctly. We are taking in that data, using it to just make those custom prompts now. And then once we're in that method, we are capturing the console input and then returning it from the method using our return type and storing it into our variables externally, right, in our main method. So that's all working really well. Now the last thing I want to do is I want to take these methods and I want to move them off into another file because they may not make sense to be in this particular file, and really you can kind of start to see we're building a set of tools here that are going to allow us to interact with the console. So that's really nice. I'm going to come over here to my Solution Explorer. I'm going to right-click on Source Files. I'm going to go to Add New Item. This is going to allow me to add a new C++ file. So I'm going to come over here, instead of being source.cpp, I'm going to say UI, right? So this is where I'm going to put all my UI tools, my user interface tools. In order to do that, I'm going to need to build a class over here. So I'm going to build a class UI. And a class here is going to be basically a logical grouping of methods that allows me to organize my methods that I have now into a particular place. So I can say, oh, where are all my UI tools? All my UI tools are stored within my UI class. So I can now take my methods from here. We're going to cut them. That is Control X, right? Cut them, and then we're going to paste them. Now, in order for them to be accessible in the other class, or the other file rather, we do need to do some legwork here. First of all, you can see I have a number of errors. We're going to address those, and then we're going to make them over there. Now, by default, these will not be externally available unless I put this public header here. Right? This public header will allow us to call them over there, or anywhere in any other file in our application that includes this particular file. Next up, we're going to need to add the static keyword. So the static keyword will allow me to call a method that is stored in another class. It's more complicated than that, honestly, but it will be a little bit more clear what the static method does when we start talking about object-oriented programming. And for you guys, all you need to know right now is that if I want to use my class solely as a logical grouping of methods, I will need to use the static keyword in order to call the method from the class. Now finally, all the rest of these errors are because I don't have my strings included, my IO stream, and my standard import, my standard template library namespace. Now, what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to come here, go to my methods file, and underneath this, after I've already included this here, I'm going to do include UI.cpp. And the order here will be important, right? Because basically what that does is it takes everything here and it just basically inserts it here. But we don't see that, right? Now the next thing we need to do is we do need to make sure that in this file we are using namespace std, because that one doesn't necessarily propagate over. Oh, so it's not actually working. Not doing what I was hoping it was going to do. I was going to try it. So what we do need to do is we need to take that header, bring this into here. So that'll give us IO stream, and then we will say using namespace std, and there you go. So that will work. Now we do need to have this include here if we do want to be able to access this particular stuff in this particular file, and it does need to be, again, still above our main method, or we have the same issue we had before, where it wasn't defined yet. Now you'll see the
what I'm doing is the biggest problem is vocabulary, because he uses random words out of context all the time to sound smart and brilliant and cool, but it doesn't help with the learning process. So one of the methods the method I developed that allows me to actually keep up with the course is I created a single prompt for ChatGPT. And what this single prompt is it's very simple, it's very elegant. It is in C++, what is whatever it is I need the definition of, and can you give me its basic structure and anatomy? And then ChatGPT responds this way. Now, the software has evolved a lot, so
Include somename.cpp as a preprocessor directive that tells the compiler's preprocessor to textually paste the contents of somename.cpp into the current file before compilation. That's all include does. Copy paste at compile time. Basic anatomy. You can see the code in our conversation history. The thing in quotes angles is a file name, not a symbol. After inclusion, the two files' contents behave as if they were one big file. Why include somename.cpp is usually a bad idea. You typically include headers.http and compile sources.cpp separately. Including a .cpp file duplicates definitions if that .cpp is also compiled on its own. ODR errors, multiple definition link errors. Breaks the usual declaration definition split. Headers hold declarations, function prototypes, class definitions. .cpp files hold definitions, function bodies, variable definitions. Makes builds brittle, order dependent, hard to reuse or link incrementally. Prefer you can see the code in our conversation tree. When people do include P, rares or special cases, Unity amalgamated builds. One master.cpp includes all other .cpps to compile as a single translation unit. Build time tricks. Template definitions. If someone questionably put template definitions in a .cpp, they might include it so users see the definitions. Proper practice. Put template definitions in headers, tiny single file exercises for quick demos, not for real projects. Practical rules of thumb include headers, not .cpp files. Use quotes for project headers, use for system third-party headers. Put include guards pragma once in headers to prevent multiple inclusion. You can see the code in our conversation history. TLDR includes somename.cpp literally pastes that .cpp in place. It often causes multiple definition problems and breaks normal C++ build structure. Prefer include somename.h and compile.cpp files separately.
And then these are like the examples that it gives. If you notice this right here, this program once, right here, program in region, program region notice. This is their structure for what they're doing, and you can see program one. It's the information is there. It's just it just expands on what's already been said, and the lack of clarification or information is the problem. The information that he's given right now is not relevant to what he's doing right now. It's relevant later. But how do I know that this is going to be relevant later? How do I make the jumps and leaps that are necessary in a timely way, in a timely fashion, to actually keep up with the class on top of everything else in life? And this is the foundation of fucking racism, because Caucasians are sitting around and giving each other the answers to the test while they're just looking at minorities like, well, if you're not going to be the nigger I want you to be, I'm not going to help you get through life. You're just going to fail, and then you're going to get sent somewhere else. And then we're going to be over here cheating and feeling validated because we cheated our way to success. We created conditions that make it hard for anyone else to be able to function in society. And young people don't know. You don't, when you're 16, 17, 18, when you're 19 or 20 coming right out of high school, and you sit down at this class and you look at this instructor and you're listening to this guy, how do you fucking know? How do you know you're being cheated? How do you know you're being scammed? You don't know. You don't know. There's no way for you to know. It takes years of experience to get to a point where you can see through the bullshit. And I don't want to see through the bullshit. I just want to just do what I'm trying to do and be done with it. I don't need the extra, right? Like, this is what the extra looks like.
These guys are still giving us errors, and that's because we moved it now under our UI class. So in order to call them on our UI class, we'll need to say UI here, and then do our scope resolution operator, which is that double colon you guys have seen. So now if I do UI.promptUser, that'll correct that. Say UI.displayDivider, resolve that. UI.promptUser again, and UI.displayDivider. Now, if I want to look at any of my UI components, I know that they're stored in my UI class, and I can see them all here And then if I want to call them over here, I can do that as well. We'll finish up by moving over our header, right? So we'll take this, we'll cut it out over here. We will stay static void. It doesn't need to return anything. It's just displaying the header. And we'll say display header. Now what I want to do is I want to make this reusable. I want to give this dynamic header text. So we're going to say string header text, and we'll take that in as another parameter. Come down here, we'll paste this. We'll remove welcome here, and we'll replace that with our header text parameter value. And then when we come over here to our main method, we're going to say UI.display header. So now if we look at our main method is really kind of descriptive of what our application is doing, right? So even though we have a bunch of code here, we've named our code in a particular way. We've organized it in a logical sense. So we're going to, in our UI components, display header and display a header with the welcome message, welcome. Then we are going to capture a name variable from our prompt user method, which is also a user interface component, right? So UI.promptUser, here's the text, here's the prompt, and then we're going to capture a string name from that. Then we're going to display a divider, which again, UI component, prompt user again, display another divider, and then use all of that data that we've captured in order to display another welcome message, right? So again, done a lot of code here without testing it, so let's make sure we test it. So we're going to run it right now. You can see, what's your name? Doug. Divider, what's your age? 38. Divider, hello Doug, who's 38 years old. So there we go. We've used methods to help organize our code, keep it maintainable, reduce duplication, reduce our file size, and make it easier to debug as well. Because if there's an issue in any one of these, I know that I just need to go back to the one place where my method is defined in order to make any changes to it. So hopefully this video helps you guys out. Please let me know if you guys have any questions. As always, thank you for watching. Have a great rest of your day. Bye. In this video, we're going to discuss debugging and error handling ++. In computer programming, we're primarily faced with three types of errors. The first is a syntax error. A syntax error refers to the grammar or structure of a language, any language that is, not just programming. Syntax errors are probably the most common type of error beginners programmers will encounter before you understand a language. In almost every case, the compiler will identify the error and display a message describing the error along with its location within the program. Here you can see some examples of syntax errors that programmers may run into while programming their applications. The first one says expected semicolon, and that's because this line requires a semicolon to terminate it. Without a semicolon, you'll produce an error here. Next up, you'll see some C# code. Here, the name does not exist within the current context. Although this is C#, this will be present in C++ as well. And what this means is that you're trying to call a variable that is not yet available. Either it's out of the scope or it has not yet been declared. Finally, you'll see cannot implicitly convert type string to int. This is another common error you'll see in most type-sensitive program languages, and that's because a string is not compatible with the int data type of this variable that's inside. Here you can see some more examples of errors. Next, you'll see the name does not exist within the current context again. That's because this is a simple typo from the name variable that has been declared. The next error is a variable that has already been declared attempting to be redeclared. We can do this if we remove the string data type here, which would overwrite the variable already stored in name, which would overwrite the value already stored in name. However, we cannot redeclare another name variable in the same context. Finally, you'll see another example of C# code where we will receive the error use of an unassigned local variable name. In this particular circumstance, name has been declared, but no value has been assigned to it, and as a result, it won't work in this particular context. The second type of error we'll run into is a runtime error. As the name implies, runtime errors are errors that occur while the program is running. Many runtime errors are the result of some external factor, such as input from a file, the internet, or a user. Most runtime errors can either be avoided completely or handled when the program is developed. You've probably seen runtime errors before as pop-ups within Windows, or several pop-ups within Windows. The last error we'll run into is a logic error. A logic error is an error in the program's source code that gives way to an unanticipated and erroneous behavior. A logic error is classified as a type of runtime error that can result in a program producing incorrect output. Logic errors, unlike syntax errors, are valid when considered in the language and, as a result, are not easy to recognize immediately. So, as the name would suggest, this means that your application looks correct, but the output is incorrect. So how do we figure out that? The answer is going to be the Visual Studio Debugger. But before we dive into that, a little bit of history. Early on, computers read data through a series of punch cards. The developer would punch holes in a card, feed them into the computer, and receive some type of output. One day, while developing for one of these computers, the researchers went to put the card into the machine, and along came a moth. Without anybody noticing, the moth made its way onto the card, which was fed into the machine. And as a result, the machine produced unexpected output. Unaware of the circumstances, the researchers created a new punch card with new data and pushed it into the machine. And still, they received unexpected output. Certain that their input was correct this time, they tried once more and continued to receive unexpected output. It was at this point the supervisor of this machine, Admiral Grace Harper, stood up from her desk and walked over to the computer. Mind you, this computer was the entire size of a room, quite large. Admiral Grace Harper reached into the computer and rustled around a little bit. Finally, she pulled out her hand, and in it was the moth. She turned to her coworkers and she said, "I have successfully debugged the machine." Here, you can see an example of the computer that Admiral Grace Harper was working on. And here, you can see the moth that she pulled from the machine. This is the origin of the word debug. Debugging is the process of removing errors or bugs from your code. The term came from the days of punch card computers and was coined when insects literally had to be removed from the interior mechanics before they would work correctly. In order to debug our code, we'll be utilizing what's known as breakpoints. A breakpoint, in computing terms, is a place where the application is intentionally interrupted. When debugging the program, breakpoints are used to analyze the current state of the application, including the values of the variables currently in memory. In order to add a breakpoint in your code, you'll click on the left side margin, which should add a red dot to your IDE. When you run your application should pause once it lands on one of these breakpoints and be displayed with an arrow. When the running code reaches a breakpoint, the program will stop, or more correctly, pause. The pause allows the programmer to examine the values of the variables. At that time, you'll be able to identify two types of variables, auto and local, that should be displayed in a separate window, typically at the bottom of your Visual Studio IDE. The values in the locals and autos window will be displayed in three separate columns. First, the leftmost column contains the variable name or identifier. Second, in the middle column, you'll see the value that's stored under the variable. Third, in the rightmost column, you'll see the type of data that is stored in the variable. Auto variables are typically non-static local variables. If you don't understand what that means right now, don't worry about it, just keep it in the back of your mind. They are stored in what is called a stack space. Local variables are non-existent in the memory after the function is terminated, which means they're typically going to be local to the particular method you're analyzing. When your application is paused, it will stop at the beginning of the line where your breakpoint is. So here, it stops at the if statement without yet evaluating the yes or the high value. Even though there are values present on the screen right now, this may not accurately represent what the value holds. For that, we'll need to use the step into button. This will step into the line of code and allow you to inspect the values further. You can do this by pressing this down arrow with a dot, or also pressing the F11 key. As we step through our application, you'll see some values in your lower panels change color to this pink or reddish color. This indicates that these values have been updated since they were last viewed. This allows developers to inspect and compare data as it traverses throughout your application and make sure that it's changing in expected behavior. To resume normal execution of your application, you can press the continue icon, and the program will continue normally until it reaches another breakpoint or finishes running completely. Throughout the course of this class, you may encounter an error that looks like this. It states, Visual Studio cannot start debugging as the debug target, followed by some type of file path, is missing. This typically indicates that your application is unable to compile and run, and has never been compiled and ran. As a result, the debugger is looking for an application to attach itself to and can't find one because your application cannot compile one. If your application contains syntax errors, it will not be able to be built or run. If it has never been run, you'll probably see this message. But if it has been run before and built with working code, then it will typically be running the last working version of your application, not the newer, broken version. Be sure to keep this in mind while you're developing your applications and repair all visible syntax errors before attempting to run it. Debugging is part of a larger problem-solving process that we'll encounter often while programming. Here, you can see an example of my actual television. I ran into an issue recently with my television where I couldn't get my Google Chromecast to power on, and I started walking through the solution in order to debug the situation. The Chromecast is located behind the television. The first thing I did was click on the power button on the Chromecast and see if the power indicator light turned on. Once that failed, I moved on to the next step. The power strip the Chromecast is plugged into is also behind the television, so I inspected the power strip to make sure that the Chromecast was actually plugged in. Once I determined that the Chromecast was actually plugged into the power strip, I tested other devices that I also knew were plugged into the power strip. In particular, I tested my Steam Link that's located right here. When the Steam Link also didn't power on, I knew that something had to be wrong with the power strip. The power strip itself is plugged into the wall through this wire channel here. So I moved my media center out of the way, checked the outlet on the wall, and discovered that the power strip had become unplugged. Once I plugged the power strip back in, everything worked exactly like you would expect. This process of inspecting the overall system and walking through the components to identify the failure points is exactly the type of process you will be using for debugging your applications.
Hello, welcome to this video for the Lab 2 overview. Real quickly before we get started on the lab, just to go over real quick, if you did miss the lecture for this lab, you can always find the past recorded lectures in the Meetings tab on FSO. Click Past, and then you can choose whatever lecture you need, and then you can click Recordings, and then the lecture will be right there ready for you to view from the live lecture. All right, so to find Lab 2, we're going to go into the week 1 introduction. You guys should already be here because you should see this video inside the 1.06 Lab 2 module. All right, so what you're going to do in this module is you're going to download the zip file, and then you're going to locate it in your Windows Explorer. I already have it pulled up here, just so that way we can see it. It's going to show a little different symbol. I have an extension installed called WinRAR that allows me to see zip files as a different symbol. You may see it as a folder symbol similar to how you're seeing my game Excel sheets right here. Before you even open the lab, you need to extract it. So you're going to right click that downloaded file, and then you're going to click extract all. You're going to get a pop-up. You can't see it on my window right here, but it is a pop-up that says select a destination and extract files. I'm going to select the destination that my file downloaded to, and that's just because I have a very specific folder for these labs. If you are downloading this and do not have a specific folder for these labs, I do recommend you creating a folder. Mine is just called Blank Labs for Videos because I'm using this to create these overviews. But I recommend creating a PG1 folder that is not on OneDrive, that's going to be in your C drive. Mine is in my H drive because I have extra storage. Make yours in your C drive. Take the zip folder there, unzip it in that folder that's in your C drive that's for PG1 specifically. And then the unzipped folder, which is just going to have file folder as the type, you're going to click into it. And then you're going to click until you see lab2.sln, which is the solution file, and then a lab2 folder. From here, we're going to double click lab2.sln, and it's going to open up Visual Studio. So let me get that on the screen right now. Nope. That is Opera. We need Microsoft Visual Studio, which is somewhere here. Yep, that is File Explorer. I'm a professional, I swear. Oh, great. Oh, and that is really tiny. We do not want that. Nope. Okay. Yeah, that still does not work. Let's see. Okay. Sorry about this. Anything situated is always a task in itself. We're gonna call this good. Okay. All right. Move myself over to here. Okay. So, as you can see here, I see nothing in Visual Studio. That's okay. I have a little handy dandy tab called Solution Explorer. If you do not see your Solution Explorer, you're going to go to View. You can't see it pop up right now, but it's going to pop up with a list of things that you can view, and you're going to click Solution Explorer. It will pop up with this side panel right here. You're going to double click on Lab 2, and then you're going to double click on Student To Do. This is going to be where you're working in all the labs. It's going to be a Student To Do folder. And we're going to work in the student.h. All right, so in this .h, you're going to see a series of tests that are related to the lab. If you run this right now, it's going to give you a console pop-up, and that console pop-up is going to look like this guy right here. All right, so you can see there's a series of tests that show up on your screen, and it's going to say fail for all of them for now, pass for one of them just because of its unique case. And this is because right now we're giving it default answer code. What you're going to do is you're going to go into these tests, you're going to put some code here, and then you're going to return some code where these scope braces are. So where you see these squiggly braces right here next to the word return, you're going to remove the squiggly braces, and then you're going to return what you need to return. So say if I needed to return the number 9, I would return 9. If you guys won't be returning 9, you'll be returning something else. So all the tests have instructions with them. So in test 3, we're given a string. The string is called input. That's why it's in parentheses. That way you can know that this string input here is the string that we're talking about. Use the STOI method to convert that string into an integer. Return that integer. So what we're going to do is we're going to use input in our STOI method, which is covered in lecture. And then if you did not see that lecture, please review it. And if you don't have time to review it, there is some videos within the research for Programming Basics Part 2 that go over conversions using methods like STOI, as well as casting that you'll use in this lab as well. But you're going to give input to STOI and then return the integer that STOI is going to give you. So, for example, I'm going to create an int. I'm going to call it result. I'm going to set it equal, and then I'm going to call it STOI. And then I'm going to give STOI a literal string value of 5. Now, really quickly, we notice, oh, I got a red squiggly. This red squiggly is because STOI is part of the std library. So to call it correctly, you need to put std : in front of it. Now, this right here, the int result equal std STOI, taking in literal string 5, literal string meaning I called the quotations and I put the number 5 in it, is going to return 5 if I change the return to return result. So I'm now returning results. I'm going to press the local Windows debugger again. My console window is going to pop up. Scroll up to the top where test 3 is, and we can see our received output is 5 because I'm giving that return the number 5. I'm only giving it the number 5. So you need to figure out from this statement that I'm showing you here how you're going to use input to make sure you're returning the correct value. That is it for this video of the Lab 2 overview. If you have any questions, please drop them in the Discord, contact us on FSO, or you can even reach out via your email if you are more comfortable that way to your primary instructors. They're the ones that check the emails the most, but the lab specialist will be on Discord as often as we can. Yeah, have a great day.
Hello everyone. In this video, I want to discuss the process of going through a PG1 lab. So that includes what to expect as far as downloading an assignment down, opening up the project, understanding what the output to the console feedback looks like, and then when you're done, zipping up that project and submitting it on FSO. So in this class, we're going to have 8 lab assignments. Starting with lab 1, you're going to be creating your own project. But this is the only project that you are going to be creating the project yourself. For the other lab assignments, you're going to be provided with a project, and you're going to be expected to work within that project and then submit that completed project on FSO. So what you're going to start off doing is when you open up a lab assignment, again, this starts with lab 2 all the way through lab 8, you're going to want to locate the resources and go to the downloads. FSO also puts it at the bottom of the file, at the bottom of the assignment now as well. What you're going to find is you're going to find a zip file called lab-whatever.zip. You're going to right click and save that file to your computer. Now, by default, it's probably going to just try to save to your downloads. I do not recommend you put the file into your downloads folder. What I instead recommend you do is you go and locate in your My Computer grouping here the C drive, that is local disk C on your computer. So you click on your this PC, you're going to come up with a list of your available hard drives. You're going to ignore that all of my hard drives are perpetually full. You're going to locate your local C, and you're going to double click that to open up your local C drive. Directly on your local C drive, that is right there on that folder that opens up, right? You're going to right click and add a new folder. I recommend naming this something short like FS to keep the files, the file path name, the full path of the files short. Inside that folder, you can make another folder for PG1 if you'd like, but I do recommend you put your projects into that folder. This is for several reasons, but it'll make your life a lot easier if you just follow this process. Once you've saved the zip to this folder, you're going to right-click the zip and extract all. This should extract a full project folder to that location. So you'll see a dialog that looks like this. It says it's going to extract to a folder named C:\fs\lab3a. You can leave this checkbox that opens up the folder when it's done. You don't have to, but it's up to you. Hit extract, and then you should be greeted with your project folder. Once you have this project folder, it is also going to contain a folder itself. You're going to drill down into that folder and locate your solution file. That is this file here that is called lab3a.sln. You may not see that .sln if you do not have file extensions turned on, but what you're looking for is that little purple icon that kind of looks like a figure 8. By double-clicking this file, it will open up the project as well as all of the associated other files that it needs to run. Now, initially, when this project opens up, you're going to be greeted with a blank screen that looks similar to this. This is not the project yet, and it looks like this because we have no previously opened files, right? So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to locate the Solution Explorer. It's typically on the right side of your window here. Sometimes it is available on the left side, depending on the configuration of when you installed it, but it's typically going to be on the right side. You click on the Solution Explorer, it's going to open up a panel, and the panel is going to display a list of files that are part of the overall project. So this is your solution, this is your project, and these are all the filters, they group them up, of the files in the project. You only want to be looking at the student to-do files. You do not want to look at the back-end do not change files. Those are all the additional tools and things that make these labs work. So you're going to be working in the studentwork.h file. So if you don't see that, just make sure to expand this student to-do filter out so you see it. And then over here, this should be the information that is displayed the code in that student work file. For most of the projects, you're going to be working exclusively in the student work file. With 3, you're going to be working in some other files. Those files will be provided for you and will also be in this student to-do heading. What you're going to see within those files is a set of instructions that looks similar to this. So here's an example where it says, test 1, given an integer parameter number, return the given value multiplied by 4. An example of the provided input will be 5. An example of the provided output would be 20. Then you're going to have a method that looks like this. So this right here is known as a method. If you haven't gotten to your methods research, you don't need to worry about it. But the general idea is we are going to generate a randomized value that should result in a predictable outcome. And within these 2 curly brackets, it is your job to provide a solution that will result in that outcome with the provided input. So this is what's known as a parameter. And you can think of a parameter as a placeholder variable that can be used with inside of your method body, that is this right here, that can be assigned a value when the method is actually called. The process will be, I am going to send a value in via a parameter, and then you will use the parameters inside of the method in order to get and achieve the result, to achieve the result. So right now, you can see my method is only returning a literal value of 0. That is, it will only ever result in a 0. So the return statement here, again, if you haven't gone through the methods research, is going to get data out of the method. So the parameter gets data in, return gets data out. And right now, the only thing that ever comes out of the method is a literal 0, so an integer value of 0. If we would run this project right now, the console would open up with something that looks like this. This is the output displaying the results of our method. So here you can see it did 5 passes on the method. Each time it generated a random value and it expected a certain value out of it. So here you can see the values that were generated and passed to the method. So we have 6, 10, 8, 2, and 8 again. Now, the method requires that you return the given value multiplied by 4. So the expected output for each one of these provided inputs is going to be that value multiplied by 4. In our case, 24, 40, 32, 8, and 32 again. However, the received value is going to be 0 because, again, remember, only thing this method ever does is return 0. So, the first thing I recommend you do is look at this data type right here. This is the expected returned data type, and for this particular circumstance, you can see it's an integer value, or otherwise a whole number value. And right now, that is satisfied because we are returning an integer value of 0. You need to identify the type of data that you would like to receive from the method, and then initialize a placeholder value that stores that type of data. So here you can see I made an int result variable, and I initialized it with a default value of 0. Then you update the value that's returned to the value stored in the result variable. Once you've done this, if you were to run this right now, the program would be exactly the same. It would still just return out the value of 0. However, this is a great time for you to practice putting your comments. Start off with result placeholder, or initialize a placeholder result variable, something like that, and then return the result value. Between here and here, all you need to do is essentially write out the instructions. So you start off by writing a comment here that says, sets the result number multiplied by 4. And then under this, do exactly what the instructions told you to do. In our case, we are going to set the result value equal to the number we were provided multiplied by 4. This sets the result to the actual result we are looking for, and then when we run the assignment again, we'll see this. Each one of these matches the expected result. Now, for week 2 specifically, these are going to be obviously more complex, but I recommend that you go through it in the same cadence, right? Where you write out placeholder result, you initialize placeholder result, you return that result, and then write out the steps that you believe will be the solution to the project. Then work backwards, fill those in with those code requirements, and walk through it. Now, once you've completed all of this, once all of your tests are passing, or you're passing enough tests that you feel satisfied with your lab being completed, then it's time to compress your project to submit it for a grade. The first thing you want to do is you want to locate that solution file. So here we can see our solution file is in this folder, which is C drive, FS, lab 3, and then lab space 3A. Once you're in this folder, you would like to go to the folder above this folder. You can do that either by clicking on this folder here or clicking this up arrow. Once you do that, you'll now see this is the folder that contains your solution file. I need this entire folder. That is, I need not just the solution file and not just the student H file. I need all of the associated folders and files within this folder. So this is the folder that you want to zip up. You can do that by right-clicking it and selecting compress to zip file. And then this is the project that you want to upload to FSO. Once you've gotten that, you can go to FSO and drop that into the submission box. Now, here we can see the emerging technologies late work policy. So the way that the system will work, the way FSO will work, is it will allow you to submit your assignment up to 3 days late. So after the initial due date, you have 3 additional days, or 72 total hours, in order to submit your assignment for a 10% deduction. So anything after that initial due date will have a 10% deduction automatically applied to it. However, if you would like an extension, be sure to reach out more than 24 hours before the assignment is due. So in this class, assignments are typically due on Monday, which means you probably want to reach out on Saturday if you are looking to get an extension. You're authorized to give you 24-hour extensions for whatever circumstance. So we have to get it within that before that 24-hour period. I highly recommend, though, that you reach out on Friday, since most of us have office hours on Friday, in order to ensure that you do get your 24-hour extension. Now, it's an important note here that practical assignments do not allow late work or extensions. So you do want to make sure that you get those assignments in on time. This is especially true for your practical 2 assignment, which is due on the final day of the class during week 4. So do make sure you're paying attention to that. Now, the assignment submission for getting started with PG1 is designed so you can upload a project and download it down from FSO in order to practice this process. So again, the assignment will walk you through creating a project in Visual Studio Code, as well as zipping it up. And if you want to have a safe sandbox environment to practice both uploading an assignment to FSO and then downloading the assignment and making sure it works, I highly recommend that particular resource. I also highly recommend downloading your project down after any submission on FSO and making sure that it works. So hopefully this resource helps you guys out. Please let me know if you guys have any questions regarding any of this. Thank you for watching. Good luck with your labs. Bye.
Welcome to Lab 3's overview. Before overview, if you did miss the lecture, go to the Meetings tab on FSO, click Pass, click the lecture that you missed. Lab 3 is usually involved with Lecture 3, click Recordings, and then you can view that lecture that you have missed. I do recommend you watch the lecture before you start the lab, as it has important information to help you complete this lab. Make sure you have downloaded the lab from the Lab 3 section. It's just going to be that zip file that's under the download section. Once you have downloaded that and got it into the folder that you want it to in File Explorer, you're going to either right click on it and then click Extract All, or you're going to just left click on it and click Extract All at the top if you are running Windows 11. All right. So now I have that file extracted. I'm going to click into it, and I'm going to click the lab3a.sln. That is going to open up Visual Studio. Give me a moment to get that on screen for y'all. There we go. All right. I have Visual Studio open. And then right now I don't have anything on my screen, which is fine. I'm going to open up my Solution Explorer. Mine is tabbed out on the side right here. If you don't see yours, you can click View, click Solution Explorer, and then it will pop up. You're going to click the little left-hand arrow next to Lab 3A. Then you're going to click on the Student To-Do filter, and then you're going to double-click to open up the Student Work.h. Inside here, you'll now see a comment that goes over the info of the lab, as well as goals and additional reminders. And then we go into the actual test. If you want, you can view your task list by going to View and then doing Task List, and that will show you all the to-dos available in this lab. So the first to-do right now is we have Test 1, Years to Day, where we're going to convert the years into days and return the days. So this kind of gives us the description of what our goal is. And then we tell you the parameters is our years, which is an integer. And this is going to be data that is already given to you. You do not have to set the years yourself. It is already given to you. You're just using the parameter as is. And then you're going to be returning an integer. So for example, if we had 5 as the value that is stored inside years, our expected output, so the days we're returning, is 1,825. We do have some tips on certain tests, so please make sure you are looking at those. And then when it comes to return, make sure you are returning the variables. So if I decided to make an int days variable, and I'm just gonna set this one equal to 0 right now. I'm gonna get rid of these scope braces and then return days. Once I run that, it should be seeing 0 for test 1, which I do. So make sure you understand that input is going to be our years. Expected output is the days that we are returning. And then we see these scope braces here, and that's just going to be our default empty or null values depending on what is happening. So in the case, since test 1 through 5 has a bunch of numbers, we're going to see 0 as that empty value. In the case of test 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, you are going to be creating methods and then using those methods. So make sure you read this important comment here. Make sure you read the example comment so you understand what you're doing. And then all of these tests for tests 6 through 10 are split between 2 parts. Part 1 is you're going to be creating a method, and then in part 2, you're going to be calling the method. So part 1 is, for test 6, is you're going to create a method called concat. It does have to be spelled this way exactly. And you're going to return the value of 3 parameters combined to form a question. So your 3 parameters are 3 strings, and you're returning a singular string. So the example input is, hey, what's up, man? And the expected output is, hey, what's up, man? With correct spacing and punctuation. That is important. One thing to note about this is, once again, the parameters have values that are given to you. You do not have to set the parameters. But other than that, if you have any questions about Lab 3 or anything else, feel free to contact us on Discord or FSO. If you want to show up to Open Lab, feel free to do that. The Open Lab schedule is in the PG1 availability section, and hope to see you around.
That's all of the videos for PG1. That's all the information they provide for PG1. And I believe I went through 0. Did I do introduction too? I think I did. Maybe I didn't go through the introduction. No, I think I did do this. I went through this video as well. Now, if you see here, we have labs 2. Labs are assignments. Lab 2, lab 1, lab 2, and lab 3, right? So within these labs, there are live videos. There is 22 days. If you notice, let me put it in context. The final assignment is due on the 26th. Because I just gave up. I didn't even do it. 26th. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There are 11 videos. Class started the 29th. So from the 29th, and there's 31 days in September. 29, 30, 31 is 3. 3 plus 26. 3 plus 26. equals 32, because this is my 2 cents. 32 days times 24, 768 hours. $768. $760 from the 28th to the 26th. One, 7, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 4 weeks and 1 day, which equals, as we've already discussed, I guess it's 29 days, not 28 days. 29 days. Which would give us $696. 96 hours for 29 days, 4 weeks. Okay, so if you look at this actual, I don't know how well you can see it. Well, you can kind of see it. Here's a Monday, here's a Friday. Monday through Friday is 5 days. So each one of these is a work week. Week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. Well, I guess week 4 doesn't count. Next week doesn't count. But there's 3 work weeks. Week 1, week 2, week 3. So that's 15 days of working 40 hours a week. So that's 15 times 40 times 24. Well, 15 times 8 to get the actual work week is 120 hours of work. Now, there's 29 days times 8 hours is 232 hours. Of sleep, recommended sleep. So if we subtract 232 minus 120 gives us, it's 352, and we subtract 352, 696 minus 352, that gives us 344. 344 hours in a week that can be used for studying, right? Okay, let's go back to the meeting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There are 11 videos, and each video is 3 hours and 15 minutes long. So let's do it this way. 3 times 60 is 180 plus 15 is 195 hours, 195 minutes times 11 is 2,145 minutes divided by 60 is 35.75 hours of video lectures to watch. I have, what's the number I'm looking for? 352 active hours. 352 hours of study time, and I have 35.75 hours of videos to watch. One and a half days of video lectures had to be watched to get the information that I need to pass PG1. But here's where the real understanding comes in. Here's where the real understanding comes in. There are 7 days in a week. There are 24 hours in a day. 7 times 24 equals 168. If you divide that by 3, you get 56. 56, 56, 56. Some of that time, 56 hours, is going to be sleep. Some of that time is going to be work. And some of that time is going to be for, let's say I exert 100% of my energy. So 100% energy is going to be school. Right? For every week, there are, is it 2? I think it's 2. 26, 29, 1, 3. There were 3. For every week, there were 3 videos, right? So that is 9 hours and 45 minutes. 9 hours and 45 minutes of videos that needed to be watched. Every other day, there was 9 hours and 45 minutes of videos that needed to be watched. So after an 8-hour day, I would have to come home and watch 3 hours and 15 minutes worth of videos, which brings my total work day, not including transportation, to 8, 9, 10, 11 hours, 15 minutes. The next day would be off. So no videos need to be watched, but I need to finish my assignment. So I would have 8, let's say I just had 8 hours. 8 hours to study, 8 hours to do the assignment, and then 8 hours for sleep. Then the next day, right, the next following day after that, I have another 8 hours plus 3 hours and 15 minutes of videos to watch for another 11-hour and 15-minute day. So by the 3rd day of the week, I'm already at 22 and a half hours of not sleeping in 3 days. Well, no, that's incorrect because we are accounting for sleep. We are actually accounting for realistically sleeping. But I'm at 22 hours of just doing schoolwork. And then on the 3rd day, I'm off. Off for the 3rd day. 8 hours dedicated to work, 8 hours for sleep, and then we get to the 3rd day. We get to Friday. Now here's where it gets convoluted. I have a video on Friday, right, that has to be watched. 8 hours. So it's 3 hours and 15 minutes for an 11-hour and 15-minute day. Right? I don't work the next day. I don't work Saturday. I don't work Saturday. I can stay up all day Friday and do the assignment. Saturday and Sunday, I can just study. Sunday is the day that the assignment is due, but Sunday is the day that all 3 of the assignments are due. So if I'm not done with assignment 1 and assignment 2, and I'm still working on assignment 3 because I can't start assignment 3 until Friday, now I have to watch 9 hours and 45 minutes worth of videos to be able to complete the course and stay within the course objectives for the class. And I have 2 days to watch 9 hours and 45 minutes worth of videos because I have to watch the video. It has to be watched.
The more that you work with like something like C++, this is going to come from Microsoft directly. So if you
And I'm gonna play these videos, but I'm just giving you guys the setup so you can understand what's going on. The stuff in these videos are the class lectures.
today, but we cannot when we hit the first breakpoint during execution is some astronomically large number that I'm not going to attempt. So we have something called Pascal case. Also talked about
Every video
typically
is a reiteration of all the other videos
there's no more breakpoints, or I can manually run the line of code.
with the teacher just adding information here and there that's relevant to passing the course.
Input into a double. We outline the parameter. It's called input.
So all the videos that we just watched for just the 1 week, just the first week, all the videos that we just watched was just for the first week, had nothing to do with the course objectives. I just sat at the computer for over 2 hours watching all the videos associated with PG1 for more than 2.5 hours, give or take, because the internet went out. In fact, the phone went out, and I need to make sure I plug it back in so it doesn't die. So that was the 2 hours just for that, right? I've been up since 4 o'clock this morning, and you see the process of just going through the videos. And I was just watching the videos. That wasn't actively trying to take notes. That wasn't actively restarting the program to try to understand what's going on. That was just sitting here and listening to them communicate information without just passively. So now on Monday, I get a video that's 3.5 hours. I don't have any videos on Wednesday, so I'm trying to do the assignment. I'm trying to understand what I'm trying to do to get the assignment done. Wednesday, I get another 3-hour video for news information regarding a new set of instructions and a new set of things I need to achieve. And then Thursday, I don't have anything. And then Friday, I get more work again. Saturday and Sunday comes around, and I have to get everything done over the weekend based on looking at these videos and understanding what it is I need to do. From ignorance, from not knowing how to do any of this stuff, I've got to figure all this shit out in a week and get it all turned in. And then I go through that process. I've been going through that process only to receive a fucking 0. My instructor never said, what are you struggling with? What areas do you think I can assist you with? Based on my past experience with other students in the class that had these types of issues, these are some of the things you can do to try to mitigate your learning curve or try to learn more. He never said, hey, make sure you don't do these things because these things will automatically fail you. I know you're struggling and you're having an issue. Here are some tips on what you can do to avoid failing the course. Don't make sure that you don't use a static cast, or make sure you don't do this, or make sure you don't do that, so that we can get you up to speed. You know, if you're having issues with converting stuff or whatever, just let me know. Are you struggling with this, or are you struggling with that? It was none of that. It was, if you have any questions, just ask me. How do you structure a question if you don't know what it is you need to know to achieve the objective you're trying to achieve, right? If you're thirsty, right? Imagine you're a child that was born and you don't have any experience in life, and you're thirsty and you want water, but you don't know, because we take for granted how we iterate into our understanding of the things that we do day to day. If you're thirsty, you know what? I'll make it even easier. If you are, if you live in, if you're born speaking a language and you go to another country and you're thirsty, how do you communicate to them that you're thirsty, right? Well, like I said, we take it for granted that there are universal gestures for thirst. We take it for granted. There are universal ways you can gesture to somebody else in another language that you are thirsty, and they will be able to understand, oh, you're thirsty, you want something to drink, right? Now, let's take it one step further. You don't speak a language that somebody else speaks, and you want alcohol specifically, and you want vodka specifically, but you don't speak the language. How do you communicate to them that that's what you want? They will probably understand that you're thirsty, but they probably won't understand that you want vodka specifically. How do you translate that? How do you communicate that to them? And that's what the struggle is for learning the program. I have to learn a new language. And the time how much time does it take to learn a new language? You want me to follow all the instructions, but you're not teaching me any fucking thing. You're giving me access to the information, but you haven't structured it in a way that will actually allow me to learn any fucking thing. And it's disingenuous. It's this fucking ingenuous to sit here and collect money from me as a veteran and set me up for fucking failure. And then when you see me actually being successful and moving forward and passing a little fucking bit, instead of you saying, hey, these are some of the things you should be able to do to get to from where you're going to where you're trying to go, you're like, no, he's cheating. He's cheating. He's obviously using large language models. He's a failure. He's cheating. So let me just give him a 0. After I spent the fucking hours up off the fact that I was sleeping in my goddamn car. There's a video of me on my channel where I literally have a police officer pull up behind me while I'm on my laptop trying to do my fucking the same fucking homework. The same shit. The same shit that you just watched me do. It's what I was doing in that car when that police officer pulls up behind me and then walks up to my car and is like, they don't want you on the property. They don't really want you here. And maybe you should this and maybe you should that. And I know it sucks, but do you have a next of kin in case something happens to you? Like, why would anything fucking happen to me? Why can't I just sit in my fucking car, mind my own business, be at peace with who I am, and pursue higher education? What is the problem? Why are you upset that you have an African American male sitting in his car, minding his own fucking business, trying to educate himself? What is the problem? What is actually the problem? When you go on the rant all the fucking time about how stupid and dumb we are. You know how many times people have told me that I can't fucking spell? But for me to actually try to make an effort to improve on something like that, I get a fucking 0. I get told that I don't have any kind of professionalism. Like I get no professionalism. Hello?
Hi, is this Paul?
Speaking.
Hi, Paul. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. This is Sarah calling from the LA Fitness.
I don't really have the time to go to the fitness center, and you guys are not 24 hours, correct?
No.
The lack of not being able to go outside of regular business hours is the reason why I haven't done anything with the membership.
Okay, so we can clear it up over the phone.
There's nothing to clear up. It's outside of my schedule. Why would I pay for something that I can't actually use?
No, I understand. It's just there is a balance on the account, so in order for us to even close it, you have to clear the balance.
How much is the balance?
Right now it's at $31.70.
Okay, I'll try to come up there later today and clear it so I can close on the account.
Okay, perfect. Have a wonderful day.
You do the same. Bye. This is what adulting looks like. This is what might choose self-improvement through self-education. And there's this need in society right now to pretend like things are not what they are, and it's bullshit. You are trying to start your life and you're trying to move forward, and there are things that are going to happen that you're not going to have information about and you're not going to understand, and the people around you are going to fuck you over and waste your time, and then they're going to tell you that you're the problem. I don't understand why that energy exists, and I don't understand why we as humans have created a condition that eliminates almost all human adversities while simultaneously trying to profit off of human adversities. So my 2 cents is about, hey, this is what we should be doing. This is how we should get there. This may not be the best answer. This may not be the best solution, but this is the way forward. And everyone's mad at me because they feel like, why are you trying to fix things that have always been a certain way? Because I don't understand why it should be broken to begin with. I don't understand why we should have to, like at work, when one of my coworkers came to me like, yeah, this other person's saying that they don't really think that you're learning, or that the job that you're doing, you're like pretending, like you're bullshitting at your job. And it's like, okay, why hasn't that person come over here and said anything to me? Why are you communicating to me something that third party someone else said? And you need me to take you at your word, right? You need me to take you at your word based on what you're saying about this person. But we live in a world where even if I go try to ask that person if what has been said is true, then they're going to get offended instead of just communicating. Like, just fucking communicate. And what I say in the message to Fullsail, I'm tired of dealing with people. I'm sick and tired of having to deal with people. It's just like my fucking neighbor. When I pull up in my car, she wants to look out her window and stare at me all fucking day. Why are you staring at me? Like, what is? And I cussed her ass out. Like, quit fucking staring at me. Don't stare at me when I come home. You hear my car pull up, don't run to your window and pull your blinds down and glare at me until I go into my apartment. What are you doing? You've been doing it for months. And it's like, are you crazy? It's like, yes. You're asking me if I'm crazy, but every time I come home, you stare at me. You don't have the capacity as an adult to just speak. Like, you can't just speak. Like, what is your problem? What is your problem? What is your broken function? And everyone wants to look at Paul Emerson like, you can't be functional. You don't know how to associate. Like, no, I don't want to do stupid, petty, dumb shit. I'm not a child anymore. I'm not a child. I'm not doing what children do. As an adult, I should be able to be an adult. That's how that should work. I spend my life being told that one day you're no longer going to be able to be a kid and you're going to have to be an adult. And now that I'm an adult, I should not have to be treated like I'm a fucking child. It's just that simple. I shouldn't have to beg. I shouldn't have to plead. I shouldn't have to compromise. I shouldn't have to negotiate. I should be able to just live the type of life that I want to live, as long as I'm not doing anything immoral, unethical, or illegal. And that's the core value of my 2 cents. Because this isn't working. This isn't working. We've got all human knowledge in our fucking pockets, and we're all fucking stupid. Everybody's running around here incompetent and incapable. Like, I don't get it. I don't understand. And I'm in school because I'm acknowledging and accepting the fact that I'm ignorant. I'm like, hey, I don't know how to do this thing. Can you guys help me do this thing? And they're like, okay, based on the fact that you don't know how to do this thing, we're going to give you a 0 because you're showing progress. But I'm learning using ChatGPT is teaching me the thing that I'm trying to do. And you don't like it because it's overcoming the adversity of racial discrimination and prejudice. Because you should be able to just ignore the black guy and then he should just fall out of the class like they always do. But since that's not what I'm trying to do, and I have this tool that's going to help strengthen the weaknesses that have been given to me by a European-ass system, now you have an attitude. Now you want to be upset instead of just doing your fucking job. You get paid to do your job, so why not just do your job? Like, when I go to work and I do my job, why can't you just do your job? It's not that difficult. It's not that hard. And then I am going to continue. I am going to continue this. When I sat down and I've reflected on what they were doing, what was going on, and how I should respond. I've already established that my 2 cents is about discrimination and racism. I've already established that my 2 cents is about self-improvement through self-education. This is the perfect example of why I don't want to go back to college. Why am I in a college asking people to help educate me and being told that the proficiency of showing knowledge is evidence of a 0? I'm giving them the information. All of the classes, everything that I turned in was structured and done the way that they wanted it fucking done. Outside of your scope, okay, but structured and done the way you want it done. And because I deviated from what you asked me to do, because you didn't provide the guidance to make sure I stayed on course, you gave me a fucking 0. You gave me a fucking 0. I know what a free function is. I understand what a static cast is now. I get methods, even though they keep fucking explaining it incorrectly. I got the debug menu. I know what the little red dot is on the side of the screen. I get it. I know what an integer is. I know what a voice statement is. I know what an array is. I know arrays have rows and columns and they start with 0. That shit I learned in discrete mathematics anyway. I understand a Boolean statement. I get the Boolean logic. Like, I have the knowledge. It's just that there are disconnects because society is designed to make sure that we will never make all of the necessary connections to achieve any fucking thing. They want all of us to be consumers so that they can produce for us, but they don't want to give us enough resources to be able to provide. They don't want to give us the resources we need to even be able to get the things that they're fucking producing. Because they have this, my biological father said there are 2 types of people in the world. One type of person measures how good they are or their level of success by where they were in relation to where they are. And this is the reason why people always focus on the past. I was here yesterday and now I'm here today. So my success is from where I was to where I am. I had $10 yesterday. I have $20 today. So my success was an extra $10. The other person measures their success by how much more they have compared to other people around them. So I have $20 and he has $10. I'm successful. If he has $20 and I have $20, I'm not that successful. I have a nice car, he doesn't have a nice car, I'm successful. I have a nice car, he has a nice car, I'm not that successful. And that other mentality is the problem. Because the value of things should be what they are, right? The instructor is irritated and annoyed and upset that society has evolved and changed, but it always fucking evolves and changes. What is the point in not recognizing that Windows destroyed IBM, Apple destroyed Windows? Like, what is the point of not understanding that things will always change and evolve and you will always move forward? Like, why is there always this need to push against it, right? Programmers are fucking dead. The programming landscape is going to evolve. It's not going to completely disappear. It's going to evolve. The people that have spent the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years of their lives learning computer programming and software engineering, that shit's done. They have to deal with LLMs. And then here's the funny part that a lot of people don't recognize or understand from an intellectual standpoint. Large language models has always been what it was always going to be. The only thing that has changed is the speed at which we can process data. Somebody was smart enough to realize, like, we've got like 16 core i9s that can do like 4.6 billion operations a second. There's only 100 fucking thousand words in the English language. We can process the entire dictionary 1 billion times over in 1 fucking second. Why not just do the statistics and probability of the language itself to figure out consciousness? Because if you think about it, this is what I'm saying. Everything we use to communicate with, every time I speak, the words that I'm using are in this book every single time. There is never a condition that exists where what I'm saying or what I'm trying to communicate is not inside this volume of this book. All of the words I'm using right now are in this book, all of them. So it's super logical to realize that, hi, my name is Paul Emerson, has some statistical probability to it. Hi, my name is, has some weight and some value and some statistic to it. Statistics and probability have always been a thing. And when you're looking at the information on the internet, there are strings of data that are consistent and predictable. Hi, my name is Paul. Hi, my name is Sarah. Hi, my name is Tina. Hi, my name is Joe. Hi, my name is whatever. There's a statistical weight to that. So it's just common sense actually that you don't necessarily need to understand how thought works. You just need to understand how statements and grammatic structure is valid as a statement of true. And this is what I'm saying. You can take 10 random words and output them randomly, right? And it'll be gibberish. If you can figure out how to statistically output a string of random words and it communicates something, even if it's just something arbitrary, that is the foundation of simulating intelligence. Because any 10 random words is just 10 random words. There's a lot of ways to write incorrectly, but there are a very finite amount of ways to write correctly. And if you can figure out how to actually reduce the noise of the random characters that aren't actually going to produce anything of value or substance, and increase the probability of words that will actually be of value or substance, and then apply an actual logical data set to that, you get ChatGPT. And it was just always a thing that was going to occur. It was always just going to be a thing that was going to occur eventually. It's nothing new. Computers have always had compilers to tell you that something is wrong, but we never had the computational power to tell you why something is wrong. So LLMs was always a thing that was going to occur. And the teacher that spent the last 20 years of his life chasing his dreams and wanting to and having his own ambitions to have to deal with a landscape where someone like Paul Emerson can just write code faster than him and cleaner than he ever could without even having to know on a fundamental level what he's doing, he's irritated by it. He's annoyed by it. Who fucking cares? All I'm trying to do is learn how to design a video game. I just want to make an all-female fighting game. And the tools to do that exist now. So why can't I just do that? I have access to the resources and access to the money to do the thing that I'm trying to do. Why can't I do that? I should have did it when I was 18. I should have did it when I was 18. And if I would have learned how to program at the age of 18, with the person that I am, I still would be using ChatGPT as a programmer. Because the problem that people have with the idea of large language models is the fact that they know that they're gonna lose fucking control. But control is an illusion. It's an illusion. No one's in fucking control of anything. It's an actual illusion. The only thing you control is your brain. The only thing you control is your body. You can lift your hand, you can put your hand down, you can blink your eyes, you can speak. That's the limitations of your control. Everything else is you have to go get it by force. That's it. You just go out in the world and go get that shit by force. And we as humans created a fucking system where we agree not to take things from each other by force. That is what it means to be a functional fucking adult. And all of this underhanded, deceitful bullshit ass undermining and compromising and destroying each other for no fucking reason is counter fucking productive to the human condition. It doesn't make any fucking sense why he gave me a 0. Why did you give me a 0? Because you did things outside the scope of the class. What is the scope of the class? I would have to write a fucking novel to be able to communicate everything that you should not do. Why? Why are there so many restrictions on what I should be allowed to do and what I should not be allowed to do? Why? And if you know that's the case, if you would have to write a novel to explain everything that I can't do, Why didn't you just write down all of the things that I should be doing? Because clearly that should be a smaller data set. It should be a more concise understanding of what I should do. Oh, it's in the videos, but you don't explain it. You just give me the fucking information, and I don't know how to connect the dots to the bullshit you put on the internet, on the fucking videos. The only reason why I understand the videos now is because I sat with ChatGPT for 6 to 7 hours a day, arguing and fighting with it, trying to figure out what the fuck it was saying, because they got their bullshit trying to prevent me from using it to learn. For fucking what? Like, why? What is the goal? You took the time to put information into your course to make it impossible for me to use large language models to learn when I'm in fucking school to learn. I'm in school trying to learn, and you went out of your way to put things in place to reduce the ability for me to learn, when you could just stop being full of your fucking self, quit being fucking white, stop being fucking European, and actually redesign your course so that students could come to the school and learn in tandem with ChatGPT how to program, with the understanding that if you choose to use large language models to study, you will not be exempt if you get a failing grade. If you choose to invest energy into large language models as a study aid while you're taking this course and you graduate and you don't know any fucking thing, we are not going to be responsible for that shit. Like, they could do that. They don't want to do that. You know why? Because it looks good on paper for them to have a certain percentage of people graduate and a certain percentage of people fail, because it makes the school feel like it's prestigious. What they don't tell you and what they don't say is that they drop minorities in favor of Europeans. They don't talk about that shit. That's the reason why, and I want you to really think about it. That is the reason why the success rate for African American men graduating from college is lower than the African American women, because they statistically make sure that they give African American women a better shot at passing than they do men. And this is the reason, and listen to what I'm saying. This is the reason why educated black women don't feel fucking educated. Because they're not. Because they're not. And I'm not saying that all black women that went to school didn't learn any fucking thing. I'm just saying statistically, they are allowed to graduate at a lower actual intelligence level than the African American male. Where I get a fucking 0 and I'm told that I don't have any professionalism, they would still make it through the course. You know why? Because what you're supposed to do is follow fucking instructions. Follow the instructions, do what you're told. That's what you're supposed to be doing. Every time they say, hey, if you're having problems, let me know. I don't know how to articulate my problem because I don't understand what I'm doing. Well, if you don't articulate your problem, then you're dumb. No, I'm not dumb. I literally don't know how to articulate my problem because I don't understand what I'm doing. That is my problem. I don't understand what it is that I'm supposed to do because I'm coming into this with no experience in programming, and I need to learn how to program if I'm going to become a programmer. The same way that a child starts school and doesn't understand how to add and subtract and multiply and divide because they literally don't have any understanding of it. But you don't just say, oh, well, you'll never know how to add or you'll never know how to subtract. You just say, right, keep writing the numbers, keep doing this, keep doing that. But as an adult, I don't get 18 years to figure it out. I get, what did I say, like 15 working hours to figure it out. 15 working hours to figure it out. So I just did the assignments and turned that shit in. Like, I don't have time to, I'm going to learn as much as I can, turn in the assignment so I can keep going forward. Because if I could pass this course and start the next course, what I'm doing right now, this bullshit, I wouldn't be doing this bullshit. I'd be going over PG1 again to strengthen the things that I've already learned. That's what I would be doing. But since they keep giving me fucking zeros instead of passing me, I have to take the course over again. And this time I'm gonna fucking document it. This time I'm gonna just document the shit because I don't have time to keep playing this game with them. Like it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any fucking sense. We're never gonna get anywhere in the world if you constantly think that you're gonna be better than somebody else because of your skin complexion. Your skin complexion doesn't mean shit. The only reason why Europeans are even on the planet is because Africans didn't murder them. That's the only reason why they exist. When a child came out light skinned, it wasn't killed, it wasn't destroyed. That's the only reason why they exist. And the thank you and the thanks for that is this bullshit idea like we're superior, we're better, we're gonna take over everything, we're gonna steal all the resources and hoard every fucking thing and charge you guys money for it. And because everybody else on the planet has a level of humility and respect, we just go with the fucking flow. But why? Why do we keep just? Why do we keep going? Like, how is Russia and Ukraine fighting each other, and you're still like black people are the problem? Like, how did Vladimir Putin attack Ukraine, and you didn't say that? Oh, this war-torn European nation, these refugees, like why? And the energy it takes to do that, just to maintain the idea of control, that's what my 2 cents is against. Like I'm not about that energy. I don't have time for it. But I have to structure my platform in a way that communicates that effectively against all of the noise. So and I don't have the answer for tomorrow. I don't know what's gonna happen tomorrow. You never do. You think that you do. You can have a solid plan. You can have a solid idea. You can believe that you know what's going on, but you never know what's going to happen tomorrow. I didn't know that Planet Fitness was going to call me. I mean, LA Fitness. I see all of the text messages about it, but I didn't know they were going to call me. And she's like, you owe us $31. I owe you $31 for never going to the gym. This is the system that they designed. I owe them money for never going to the gym. I don't have the time to go to that facility, but I owe them a balance of $31. This is how it works. This is what Europeans do. They want to get paid to provide no service. So, as always, my name is Paul Emerson, and I've given you my 2 cents. I got some stuff I need to take care of today, and then I'll get back to doing the study thing.